Yeah, so everyone's usually complicated about diet, especially people that listen to mainstream media that tell us that we're supposed to eat, every 3 hours. We're supposed to consume the majority of our macronutrients as non-essential carbohydrates in the form of plants, vegetables, fruits, grains, beans, rice, pasta, bread. These are the things that they say that we're supposed to consume the majority of our calorie intake with. However, that macronutrient is actually not essential. All the body needs is actually animal fat and animal protein. Within the animal fat, you get all your fat soluble vitamins. There's vitamin C in meat, and it's just not really measured or put on boxes. So people think that if you eat animal foods only, that you're gonna have scurvy. Hey, if you're worried about scurvy, have some berries. This is what I've basically done over the month to lose back the weight that I had gained, because I slacked off on my diet and I was kind of indulging here and there, not really following a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet that worked so successfully for me. So I ballooned up to 197. I was hovering around 177 last summer, so that's a good 20 pounds extra. So and I was getting hunger, more cravings, cheating here and there. Once you start introducing non-essential carbohydrates, it's gonna increase your cravings. Your appetite's gonna go way up. Yeah, your appetite's gonna go way up. Um, so I decided to start with just very lean meats like round steaks, pepper steaks. So here's the rationale. So if you're supplying your body with non-essential carbohydrates consistently, every 5 hours like we do in our culture, what happens is that the insulin spikes, and insulin is an anabolic hormone. That means that while you spiked your insulin and there's carbohydrates to be consumed, you'll never have access to your actual fat storage in your body. People have to wake up and start wondering, look, you ask people what's the purpose of fat? Oh, it's to store energy when we don't have food. Okay, but why is it then that you're morbidly obese, or you're fat and you're hungry every 5 hours? You're even feeling like brain fog. You feel like you're gonna pass out if you're not consuming food every 5 hours. That doesn't make sense. Don't we have these fat stores that are there in case we don't have food? Why do we feel starved? Why can't we access that stored energy reserve that we have on our body? That is because we continually are feeding ourselves carbohydrate. When you eat carbohydrates, it's basically glucose. Glucose enters the bloodstream, and your blood usually wants about a little less than a teaspoon of sugar in 5 to 6 liters of blood. That's how much sugar is in our blood, and that's the amount that we need. We don't really need more than that. The So you consume the sugar, the insulin spikes. You have to burn off that sugar, and you also have to wait for the insulin to return down to baseline. And then there's, it's not immediate, but if you wait a bit, then you'll start to use your fat storage. But this never happens, and this is what people have to realize. Use rationality, because when you're going to try and convince people that the appropriate human diet is primarily an animal-based diet with the ability to consume plants. Now, a lot of plants have anti-nutrients. So these anti-nutrients are phytochemicals that the plant uses to basically defend itself against prey. It doesn't have running shoes to run away or teeth to chomp at yet. So it needs defense mechanisms. And some people actually have mild autoimmune reactions without really knowing it. And the medical industry doesn't deal with root causes. They deal with selling drugs for symptoms, stuff like that. So no one really knows that some people that have these modern day ailments, these autoimmune diseases that the doctors really can't tell you why your immune system is reacting like that, it could actually be to a certain extent, these phytochemicals in plants that we're consuming way too much, probably among other things. I really feel that this might be the solution for a lot of people, because when people started doing the carnivore diet, which is still a no carb diet, you're in ketosis, but it's a lot less heavy on fat, a little more higher in protein. The carnivore diet, people that were using it as an exclusion diet, for example, that were really just eating beef, water, and salt, had a lot of their ailments and some of their autoimmune diseases put into remission. And this kind of makes sense, these anti-nutrients. It's a good hypothesis. Humans just have to eat animal food. Humans supplemented with plants to increase the calorie intake. If you just do a Google search yourself and look at the dawn of the agricultural revolution, you'll see that once we moved further away from the hunter-gatherer, the paradigm of how we ate, and started to use agriculture and grow crops and stuff like that, in reality, the height, the stature, the health of human beings actually declined when we moved away from primarily eating animal foods and then eating more grains. Now, what these grains and what plant agriculture can give us is a large quantity of calories. So the population was able to expand, beyond 200 million when we started to do plant agriculture, because we had more calories. However, if we're chomping just on these things, we end up missing out on a lot of the essential amino acids, the essential fats, omega-6 and omega-3 in an appropriate ratio, as well as a lot of the micronutrients. That's why the peasants ate a plant-based diet, just porridge and gruel and beans and stuff like that. So the peasants were very unhealthy. They didn't have access to much animal food, and they had shorter statures again and stuff like that. So this is a lie. This is, my channel is Age of Deception, and I talk about other deceptions besides nutritional deceptions, but nutritional deceptions is one of the most basically it causes the most harm, because if you have a malnourished population, this will affect everything, and it can even cause more aggressive people, cognitive decline, makes the population more flaccid and easier to handle. This is why the peasants were eating gruel and all of these beans and stuff like that. It kept them alive, but they had nutritional deficits. All of the essential micronutrients, the essential fats and proteins are all found in animal food, and you can just consume an animal-based diet solely and thrive tremendously on it. And so in the last month, May 11th, I was 197 pounds from 177 just last summer. All this weight was put on because I basically stopped eating a human appropriate diet consistently. So it's been 1 month, and this is what my game plan was. I said, okay, I am removing all carbohydrates from my diet. That means that my body will have to take more of its fat storage. But because I had a good 20 pounds, I didn't even have to go also high fat. I just went no carbs and normal amount of fat that I'm finding in my animal food, and I'm eating round steaks, pepper steaks and stuff like that. That's the majority of what I've been eating this month. Buying ground beef, making patties, easing off on the cheese and stuff like that, and eating some eggs and pretty much staying to a very strict carnivore diet, mostly beef. I lost 10 pounds, so now I went from 197 to 186, so it's like 10 to 11 pounds. I started calculating that May 11th, and now we're June 11th. It's been exactly 1 month, and I've lost a little over 10 pounds. So when I started doing this, my appetite returned to normal. The cravings left within about 10 days of consistently being in ketosis. I felt better cognitively, which is a scientific fact, research published about ketogenic diets. Then my appetite went down. I easily returned to eating one large animal food meal at the end of the day. No problem all throughout the day. Stable, good energy levels, perfect cognition, feeling clear-headed, sharp as a whip. Then I ended up doing a 3-day fast. Really wasn't on plan, but I was like, I'm not hungry tonight. I'm gonna see about tomorrow. The next day wasn't hungry at all, and the third day I was doing great. And I was like, maybe I'm gonna do a 5-day fast. But me and my wife were alone, so I was like, so we bought some shrimp and steak. We made like a surf and turf with shrimp and cheese and garlic butter and stuff like that. So I broke my fast with that, but that helped like knock off in 3 days almost like 2 pounds of fat. So it's very simple. If you want to be healthy, you don't need to count calories. You just have to know to eat this food group, which is animal foods, and to stay away from anything that is not an animal. You can eat as much as you want when you're first starting. You probably have a large appetite. If this is the first time that you're doing this, there is a two-week adaptation period. If you've been running on carbohydrates all your life, trying to transition to using mostly fat can be a little bit of a rocky road for people. They call it keto flu. It's not a virus. It's just that your body is transitioning into primarily fat and ketones as fuel instead of glucose. There's a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration from Price, Alan Price. Wow, it's been a while. I have some videos on nutritional physical degeneration, and this guy went to modern cultures in the early 20th century, and he looked what healthy cultures with no modern diseases were eating that were actually not in relationship with modern modernity and stuff like that. And these people ate very simplified diets. If you look at the Maasai, they ate primarily milk from the animals. They ate some of probably the cows when they stopped producing milk. They ate meat, so they had meat. So they were like strictly carnivorous, and they had no modern diseases, no cancer, no Alzheimer's. Everyone maintained very healthy state of being. You look at the Gaelic and the Scottish Isles. These people were their land was like really rocky and mossy. They couldn't really grow much. I think they could grow rye bread, so they had that was actually processed a lot different from the bread that we process to deactivate the anti-nutrients to make so it's not wasn't an issue. But that was a supplementation to their diet, and they primarily ate seafood because they lived on the shore. So they didn't have pork, they didn't have steak, they didn't have these kind of things. It was primarily cod liver stuffed in the cod head with oats. Yeah, it's true. Them it wasn't rye, it was oats. And they lived on these three things, and they thrived. Cravings make you want to have a wide variety of foods, but when you start eating a human appropriate diet, you'll see relatively quickly that your cravings for these things go away. Your hunger will leave you for long periods of time, and when it comes back, you're actually not craving, you're truly hungry. And this allows you to eat the same thing that you ate the last time you were hungry, and to really appreciate it. When you're hungry, believe me, you will crave beef, and you don't really get sick of it. Some people do the carnivore diet, and it's like strictly beef, water, and salt. But I call a carnivore diet is anything that is animal. So you could still call yourself carnivore if you're eating eggs, cheese, beef, chicken, and stuff like that. So yeah, I lost 10 pounds in one month. So now I'm at 186, so 11 pounds actually, and I expect in the next 2 months, maybe even in another month if I ramp up the fasting, 2-3 day fast here and there. I'm pretty sure within 60 days I would have been able to lose 20 pounds and feeling great about it. So you just have to understand the biochemistry behind food. You are what you eat. You're not a plant. You're actually an animal. You have we're mammals. So when you eat mammals, you're supplying your body everything that it needs. What else? You can look at my older videos on keto, the nutritional sciences about fat being bad for your heart, and animal protein is going to give you rectal cancer. These are not, this is not true. These are associations that they use with food questionnaires and very creative statistical analysis. Humans, we're eating food. So if you go and read Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, that book, you're going to see like, okay, well, you know what? Nutritional science that's funded by big food companies are telling me this. And what were these people in the early 20th century eating? Wow, they're eating like primarily animal food. They were eating just a few staple foods, and they were very healthy human beings with better bone densities, better development of their jaw, better just they were built better. If you look at in the modern day, a lot of us have to get our wisdom teeth extracted, and that's actually because we eat a highly plant-based diet, and our bone structure that doesn't develop doesn't develop to its potential. So there's teeth crowding. A lot of people have chronic nasal congestion. That's because the nasal passages aren't well formed. In his book, in Nutritional and Physical Degeneration, you see that everyone had much wider jaw bones, much wider nasal passages. This is all nutritional. So we are still in severe nutritional deficiencies in the modern era, but we're drowning in calories. So eat animal food, eat as much as you want, eat only when you're hungry, and everything will work itself out. Stay away, do the experiment, stay away from all carbohydrates. If you're doing this and you used to be a heavy carb consumer, you're going to have a diuretic effect. It's just what happens when you stop eating carbohydrates. Your kidneys start filtering out a lot more water, and you'll have to up your salt intake. So if you want to try this, get magnesium sulfate, get potassium, and put salt on your food. These three things will make the transition into a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet a lot easier. The symptoms that you might get if you don't take these things initially for the 2 weeks, besides brain fog that you might have and a lack of energy, you'll feel dizzy when you stand up. So that's pretty much it. All right, that's where I am. I'll show you. I'll show it to you next time. But that's pretty much what I'm doing. Lost 11 pounds in a month. Feeling great. It was easy. Really enjoy my food because when I do eat, I'm not craving. It's a wonderful way of eating. It's the human appropriate diet, and that's where I am. Talk to you soon.